Hi, this is Paul Solt from iPhoneDev.tv. Now, if you followed along in the last video, we added the constraints, these three constraints that allowed us to position the button along the bottom. Now, it's appearing right here. What I really want it to do is I want it to slide from off-screen to on-screen, which means we have to play with the constraint. Now, in order to do that, we need to set up a local variable. So right now, we've created these four variables for our constraints. The only one that we need to be a local variable is the bottom button constraint. So what I'm going to do is right above this at the very top, right underneath where we create button 2, I'm going to create a new constraint that's going to be a variable, and this is going to be the same name. So we're going to call it bottom button constraint. And this is going to be a UI button, and it's going to be a implicit one. So we'll just do an exclamation mark at the end. Now we'll go ahead and say, get rid of this let down on around line 81. And so that we're assigning to our local variable. And sorry, I did the wrong type up top. I said UI button. I wanted the NS layout constraint. So we go ahead and fix that. So you should see what I have here. And then along the bottom, you should get rid of the let so that it is now assigning to this. Now this gives us the ability to change the constant value. So we can change the constant value in a new method that we can create. And we're going to create another method down here to control that. So we're going to have our show and hide logic. So we're going to create a function called show button. And then we're going to create one called hide button. Now, in order to control this logic, I'm also going to create a Boolean value. So pause the video if you need to catch up and type this in. The Boolean value is going to be called button on. So I'll just create var button on. This is going to be of type bool, and we'll set this initially to false. All right, so that's going to give us a switch that we can flip. Now, when we animate the button, what I want to do is in this method down here, the animate button press, this is where we're going to actually animate the new button that's going to slide on. The other one will animate the alpha transparency. But let's focus on getting this logic set up. So what we need to do is say if button on, then we need to do something. So if the button's on, we want to turn it off. And so we'll say hide button. This is just a simple toggle between the two states. Otherwise, we want to show the button. So that means that the button is not on. Now this is going to give us logic that we can go ahead and work with. So an easy way to show a button and to hide a button is to change the alpha. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so let's run it and see what we get. All right, so we're not seeing anything, and what's going on here? All right, okay, so one last step. We never flip the switch, and so anytime you're working on one of these statements, you always need to make sure that you flip the switch. The way we can do that is using itself as the value, so we can say button on, and what we do is we put an exclamation mark in front. So this exclamation mark is the not operator, and it turns a true statement into a false statement, or it turns a false statement into a true statement. So what that will do is cause it so that it hopefully will switch states, and we now see that the button appears and disappears. Now, we also want to move the position. So in order to change the position, we're going to change the constraint. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky with auto layout, is there's a special method that you have to call to make sure that it actually does update immediately, and that's the layoutIfNeeded method. And so let's go ahead and wrap up this into our animation statements first, and then we'll go ahead and get that working. So I'll do an animate with duration. We'll do the second or third one here. The duration, we're going to keep it pretty short, so it's going to be half a second. Press tab, then press enter. It'll auto insert that extra bit of code right here for you. And we're going to move this line up. So a shortcut for that is the option command and then the square bracket, or you can just cut and paste. Now, anytime we put code into our animation blocks, you're going to notice that it's going to tell you that you need to have the self attribute and it will fix it for you, or you can add it yourself as well. All right, so that's going to animate. We can do the same type of thing down below if we do a UIView animation. It's the second one. I press enter. We'll do 0.5 and press enter again. That'll insert the code for us. And I'll just cut and paste this one. So I'll cut that. I'll paste it right here, and I'll indent it with the command square bracket. And again, we'll need to fix it so that it says self. This is just a rule that you need for blocks of code. And this is considered a block when you see something like this in a function call. So that's how the animation code will work. We'll go ahead, we'll run it again, and we should see that the button is going to change. All right, now the reason it doesn't work the first time is because the state is wrong. So initially the state is actually true. So if I say button on is true, that's going to match what we see, and now it's going to hide and then appear. Now I really want to push this around. So the way we do that is we work with that button constraint here. And so we can just say the bottom button constraint, its constant value is the only thing that we can modify here. So if I said this was maybe, I don't know, 100, and then down here, I say it's another value, we're going to see something different. So let's go ahead, see if this works. Now, again, we have to put the self in. So I'll just type that right here and go ahead and run it. Now, this is where you run into problems because you won't see what you expect. All right, so what's happening is I've reversed the constraints from what they really need to be, and it's fading out. It's not animating right now. So let's make this a -100 and make the other one a 100. Now, -100 is going to actually pull the button up from the bottom. So when we hit the animate auto layout, it's going to disappear, and then it's going to reappear up top, then it's going to disappear. So it's sort of doing what I want, but it's not animating. And the reason it's not animating is because we need it to update the layout. And so the way we get that to happen is we have to make a call to self.view.layoutIfNeeded. Now, if you look at the documentation, if you hold the Option or the Alt key, you can click on this. You can see that this forces the layout immediately of all the subviews. So that's what we really need. And we'll go ahead and do that again after we set the other constant, and that will cause it to force the layout. So really important. I'm going to move the alpha back up to the top. So pause the video, make sure that what you have matches what I have here for those functions and your button logic. All right, so that's right there, and it's jumping around a little bit. All right, so pause the video, make sure what you have matches what I have here, and we'll go ahead and run it and see what happens. All right, we see the button slide off, and we see it slide back on. Now, it's not going where I want to go. So where I really want it to go is to its starting point. So we discovered that was -20, which is our margin. So we'll just say -20. Now, I don't want it to go all the way down to 100. I just want it to go maybe off screen. So 80 or so should put it off screen completely, and we can double check to make sure that that actually works. All right, so it's going to be starting from the very bottom of the lip. Maybe I do want 100 so that it's going a little bit further than just the lip, so that it's a little bit delayed in when it sort of comes back. All right, so that's going to give me the animation that I want. It's going away, it's coming back. Now, this is working pretty well, and it's really important that you have the layout if needed, and that has to be on the view that's containing whatever is going to be animating. We could do this on each button individually. We could just say the button2.layoutIfNeeded, and that would fix our issue as well for the animation block. But if we're going to be animating multiple properties, which we want to do, we want to animate the slide of this entire group A that we're currently obscuring. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how we can get that working, and we can also tidy up the animation for the top button. We can get going on some of that logic. But first, let's get it so that we can get this panel to slide in and out, because these are the types of effects that are going to make your app look a lot more interesting to your users. It allows you to dynamically add, hide, move content around your screen. Hey, this is Paul Solt. Real quick, I want to interrupt you. You're watching this tutorial on YouTube, and I actually have a course with all the source code, all of the video files that you can actually download. So what you need to do is just jump on over, click the link, and you can jump into this course. It's free. It's going to show you how to animate using auto layout in your iPhone apps with Swift. So if you're enjoying this, go ahead, click the link and jump into the course. It's free, and you can get started with building a nice animation using auto layout.